Welcome to Quilting Kentucky Stories, a special series from Tales from the Kentucky Room. I am Sylvia Lovely, coach, teacher of writing, and particularly writing the stories of your life. The stories you will hear, most of them are from my writing students in the Carnegie Center for Literacy and Learning class entitled Writing the Stories of Your Life, or from opportunities I have had to coach budding writers. Some of these stories are funny, some sad, and sometimes both. They are not lengthy, but each adds on an exclamation point to life. This is Freda Meriwether, Sissy Bug.
Growing up, I was always a daddy's girl. My mom and dad were divorced, but I looked forward to seeing my dad when he came around. He could never do anything wrong in my mind, but I always knew he had a drinking problem. I had to move my dad to Lexington because of his drinking problems. He got evicted from his apartment in Cincinnati, Ohio. I remember when we went to Cincinnati to move him, he was supposed to be helping us pack, but every time I sent him to the dumpster, he came back drunker. So by the time we left Cincinnati, he was passed out on the floor. We made a decision that we had to leave him there. So we left him on the floor of his empty apartment. The next day, there was a knock on the door. There he stood with some stranger that I did not know that brought him to my house. And I told him then that this would be the last time that he would be allowed in my house intoxicated. I'd helped him get his own apartment here in Lexington. My husband and I, we tried to do what we could for him without enabling him. It was Saturday morning that I stopped by my dad's apartment to see if he needed any groceries. I knocked on the door and no answer, so I used my key. As soon as I opened the door, I noticed a quiet, cool feeling in the room, and then I noticed my dad on the floor. My dad had fought alcohol addiction most of my life, and finding him on the floor passed out would not be alarming, except that he was not moving. He was just so still. I called out his name, but no answer. My husband quickly went over and checked his pulse, and he was gone. My heart just sank, and my legs went out from under me, and I fell to the floor to my dad's body and kissed him. Still in shock by the fact that he was so drunk that he fell out of his chair and fell across his computer stand where he laid and accidentally asphyxiated himself. He was so drunk he could not even get up to save himself. The realization that I would not see him again was more than I thought I could handle at the time. We had been through so much together during my lifetime, good times and bad times. Good times was when, we would plant flowers together at my home. He looked forward to that every year, just sitting, talking, and planting our flowers. But having an alcoholic parent, you expect death to happen sooner rather than later because of the lifestyle that they lead. You knew that day would come. I spent my life trying to convince my dad that he could overcome his addiction without even understanding really what this addiction was all about and how it overtakes your mind and your body. Alcohol is a disease. It's just like any other medical diseases, and it took me a long time to understand that. You can't simply just tell someone who's an alcoholic to stop drinking. They can't without help. I wouldn't even let him see my grandson when he was drinking. If he wanted that opportunity, he would have to make the decision that he wasn't going to drink. I even tried to go to court and be his guardian. But you know what? Courts do not like taking people's rights away. So that was a failure. Couldn't get that done. After he died, I felt the need to do something different to honor him. So I went through a training with Hospice of the Bluegrass to facilitate a support group at my church. So I went through the training, and the people that came, it was just so interesting just to hear people's pain and the sorrows that they've experienced. Like my friend Vanita, her daughter was murdered. She was found dead on Fortune Drive, and this was something that she had to deal with. But it was so interesting that in the end, she just had forgiveness for the person that did that, and that's the only way that she could go on with her life. It took me a long time to understand the difficulty to overcome alcoholism and the fact there was nothing that I could do to save my father. I felt that guilt for a long time until I just came to that realization that, Freda, there was nothing that you can do to save him. He was an adult, and it was a journey that he had to do, and he had to be committed to do that journey. I was just there as a support. Not even his love for me and for his grandson was enough. A lot of times, I wonder, for me, you couldn't stop drinking, or for your grandson who you love so much. He always called me Sissy Bug, every time we talked. You couldn't even do that for Sissy Bug. So not even his physical health, the need he had for alcohol, it was much too strong for him to overcome. So he died the way that he lived, and he died asphyxiating himself by falling on his computer stand. But with God's help, that's how I was able to get through with this journey with my father. Much prayer, many prayers, and just letting God know that I did the best that I could. And at the end, I love my dad, and I always loved my father. I really miss my dad. I really miss all the times of him calling me Sissy Bug.
Thanks for listening to Quilting Kentucky Stories, a special series from Tales from the Kentucky Room. If you want to hear more episodes like these, you can subscribe, rate, and review Tales from the Kentucky Room on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Or you can visit us at lexpublib.org/podcasts. That's lexpublib.org/podcasts. We'll be back with another patch for the quilt of Kentucky stories.